Hello students, welcome back to the next episode of Tempest Act 3 Scene 1. In our previous video we had covered the first half of the scene. Now we are going to look at the second part of the scene. We had stopped at this particular line, where Miranda says, Miranda informs Ferdinand her name and says that, Miranda, oh my father, I have broke your hest to say so. So she admits in front of Ferdinand that she has broken her father's command in order to inform him her name. So let us continue. Ferdinand admired Miranda. So he again repeats her name and says that Miranda means someone who is worthy of wonder. So he says, admired Miranda, indeed the top of admiration. So he feels that her name has been appropriately chosen, and he says, indeed she is the top of admiration, means she should be the most admired one, worth what's dearest to the world. And he says that you are no less than the most valued thing in the world. Full many a lady I have eyed with best regard. Now this particular speech by Ferdinand is extremely important because it establishes him as a man who has experience of courtly love. He has been raised in the palace and he is aware of the courtly manners. His language is also different from Miranda. Miranda, who represents innocence, she is very direct in her approach. She is truly a princess in manners, but she is not aware of the rules of the court, of how a person should court one another. So she is not aware of those customs, but she is very honest and she is very direct in her approach. On the other hand, we find Ferdinand, he will allude to the heavens and the gods and all other elements in nature in order to prove his love to Miranda. His words are far more superficial, if we can say. His emotions are not superficial. His emotions are extremely sincere, but the words he uses, those are very conventional terms that are used in courtly affairs or courtly love. So he follows that custom. So he says, full many a lady I have eyed with best regard. He says that he has met many women, and he has eyed means he has looked at them with best regard, means with affection. He has often looked at women with a lot of affection. And many a time the harmony of their tongues hath into bondage brought my too diligent ear. And many a time the harmony, this music of their tongue, means of their speech. There were women who were well spoken, and their speech hath into bondage. Hath into bondage means captivated his attention, or was capable enough to hold his attention, brought my too diligent ear. So his ear became attentive to many a woman. He was captivated by many women and by their different qualities. For several virtues have I liked several women. And he adds that for different qualities he has liked different women. So he establishes himself as a man of experience. And this experience has only made him appreciate Miranda's innocence even more. Never any with so full soul, but some defect in her did quarrel with the noblest grace she owed, and put it to the foil. So He says, never any with so full soul. He has never loved anyone with his entire soul, with his full soul. He has never given his complete love. He has never surrendered himself completely to any woman. But some defect, but every time there was something that happened that foiled or that thwarted or put an end to the affair. What was that? Some defect in her did quarrel with the noblest grace. That is, some fault in her did quarrel, that is, did go against her noblest grace, did go against her finest qualities. She owed, whatever she owned, her finest qualities, some fault in her went against her finest qualities. All these women had some fault which would finally go against their finest virtues, and it would put to the foil, and it would put the affair to an end. The affair would end. But you, oh you. And finally, Ferdinand says, but Miranda, you, oh you, so perfect and so peerless. Peerless is someone who cannot be compared, incomparable, she is matchless, are created of every creature's best. So, Miranda, Ferdinand implies, combines all the features, all the finest features of women without their fault. So his experience has made him appreciate Miranda's beauty, her grace, her qualities even more. So this experience was very important for Ferdinand because it allowed him to appreciate Miranda's beauty even more, to appreciate Miranda's qualities even more. Please mark these speeches since you do not have a lot in your final examination. So each of these scenes should be learnt thoroughly. So do not miss out on any detail. Miranda, I do not know one of my sex. So she says that she's again, this speech is nicely balanced, with the speech given by Ferdinand, because here Miranda speaks of her own experience, which is her own experience in the sense her own experience on the island. She has never met anyone, not even a woman other than herself. So she says, I do not know one of my sex, that is one of her own sex, any other woman other than her. No woman's face remember. She does not even remember any woman's face. She says, save from my glass mine own, and she remembers only, save means she only remembers from my glass, she remembers her own face from her own mirror. Nor have I seen more that I may call men than you, good friend, and my dear father. So she says, nor have I have not seen any woman other than myself. I have never seen any other man other than you and my dear father. How features are abroad, I am skillless of. So she says, how features, how people look elsewhere, how people appear, how they physically look elsewhere in other places. I am skillless of means she is ignorant of that. She doesn't know anything about the outside world. But by my modesty, she makes a promise. She says, but by my modesty, my chastity, my purity, the jewel in my dower, she refers to her virginity as the jewel in her dower. So this is also very important because this shows that it is one of her virtue, it is her chastity. I request you all to use the word chastity, purity in your answers and not use the word virginity. It is only for your understanding. The answers should include the words like chastity and purity, and her purity is being referred as the jewel in her dower. It often is, some examiners consider the use of virginity as quite crude. They would not like to see those words in the answer script. So you can either directly use the phrase in double quotes like the jewel in my dower, or you can use Miranda's chastity. She promises upon her chastity, I would not wish any companion other in the world but you. And she confesses, look at how plainly she expresses herself. She does not refer to the heavens, or she does not talk about anything else, but her approach is very direct, and she appears quite confident as well. She says that upon my modesty, I swear on my modesty, on my purity, on my chastity, and I swear on the jewel in my dower, I would not wish to have any companion in the world other than you. This is what she tells Ferdinand. Nor can imagination form a shape. And she says that nor I can think of anyone other than you. I cannot imagine any other shape other than you. Besides yourself, he says, nor can imagination form a shape besides yourself to like of. So he says, I cannot think of anyone other than you, let alone like one. So she's unable to form any other shape, she's unable to form any other person, even in her imagination. But I prattle something too widely, and suddenly she realizes that prattle means she's talking too wildly. She has forgotten all the customs, she has spoken her mind out, and suddenly she has become very conscious of expressing so many things together. And my father's precepts I therein do forget. And she says she realizes that her father's precepts means boundaries. She has forgotten the boundaries that were drawn by her father. Boundaries drawn as in not literal boundaries, but how he had asked her not to communicate with this stranger, and she has overstepped those boundaries, and she has completely forgotten about those boundaries, and she is expressing herself freely and wildly in front of Ferdinand. Ferdinand, he says, I am in my condition a prince, Miranda. Do think a king, I would not so. I am in my condition means he is referring to his social position. He says in my condition means in my social position I am a prince. In society I am a prince, Miranda. I do think a king, and now he is a king. I would not so. That means I wish it were not so. He believes that his father Alonso is dead. So he thinks that he is perhaps the king now. But I would not so means he wishes it was not true. He wishes it it not to be true, but the truth is he is a king now, and would no more endure this wooden slavery than to suffer the flesh fly blow my mouth. So he says, and would no more endure, I would no longer suffer this wooden slavery. Wooden slavery is, it is a comparison. We see that Ferdinand is alluding, he is referring to his forced duty of log carrying. He is referring to his enslavement by Prospero. He has been bound to the wood. He is supposed to carry the wood to the pile. He says that I am enduring, I will no longer suffer this wooden slavery than to suffer the flesh fly blow my mouth. Means then I should allow a flesh fly to make its home inside my mouth, to settle in my mouth. Flesh fly is a fly that that deposits egg. Wherever it sits, it deposits egg. So he says that I will no longer endure this wooden slavery. I will no longer be enslaved by Prospero and carry out this menial task of piling the logs. And than to suffer, I will, like I do not allow the flesh fly to settle on my mouth and lay eggs inside it. I do not allow it to settle it in my mouth. Similarly, I will no longer suffer or endure this wooden slavery. Hear my soul speak. So he says, now please hear my soul speak to you. The very instant that I saw you did my heart fly to your service. There resides to make me slave to it, and for your sake am I this patient logman. And he says, his language is again very different from that of Miranda. He compares to a lot of things. He uses such flowery terms, and he employs such words in a roundabout way in order to express his love for Miranda. He is sincere, but he cannot go beyond, or he cannot transcend or go against the courtly manners that he is so accustomed to. So he says, the moment I saw you, my heart fly to your service, means it was at your service. There resides, and my heart stays with you. There it stays to make me slave to it. I am slave to your heart. I am enslaved by your heart. I am going to be your slave. And for your sake, and only for you, am I this patient log man? And he says, I am this patient log carrier only because of you, because I love you so sincerely. So for you, I have transformed myself, and I am enduring and suffering this dishonor of piling the logs. That is what he says. Okay, we stop here for the day. The next part is again more interesting, and we will see how they communicate, how Ferdinand and Miranda communicate with one another. If you have any questions from this portion, please feel free to write it in the comment section. I will try to answer your questions as soon as possible. If you like my work, please like, share and subscribe to my channel. I will again meet you all in the next video. Thank you for watching.